So again, I'm Lindsay Sullivan. I'm the New-York-GIML president. We have some fantastic teachers here who are going to share very briefly, 10 minutes. And I am going to hold you to that 10 minutes because I don't want to take up too much of people's times. But before we get going, again, if you have questions for the group, please, if you think it pertains to everyone, you can ask it in the chat. But if not, try to write them down and save them for the breakout rooms. And I want to read our mission statement before we get going. We have a lot of people who are not New-York-GIML members, so welcome. We're so excited for you to join us. We are the New York chapter of the Gordon Institute for Music Learning, and GIML, which is what we call ourselves, is dedicated to the advancement of music learning theory. New York-GIML shares in the vision set forth by Dr. Edwin E. Gordon and the Gordon Institute for Music Learning. We seek to advance music understanding through audiation, and we're kind of operating here that people sort of are familiar with some of these MLT terms, but if you're a total beginner, totally fine. We'll talk about that more in the breakout rooms, I'm sure. We believe in the musical potential of absolutely each individual and support the continuing study, support, and growth of music learning theory throughout the state of New York. And we also encourage, strongly encourage members to act in a positive and professional manner when discussing our organization and MLT in general. Members are encouraged to recognize and remain open to varied approaches and to celebrate both our differences and our similarities. So again, thank you for joining us. If you're just now joining us, make sure that you have changed your name to match your registration and to save questions for the breakout rooms if possible. And without further ado, we're going to get started with our early elementary music. We have Kane and Jenny Cerne. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and you guys can take it away.
All right. Hi, everybody. See, can I see Jenny? There she is. Hi, Jenny. Hi. So, so Jenny and I, we teach UPK through second grade general music in Canandaigua Primary School, which is a Finger Lake in the New York State area. And we're going to share our screen here to share a little bit about our virtual teaching experience. Let's see if I can play here. Thumbs up just so you can know you all can see that. Great. Okay.
That's great.
So we wanted to start with how we got here, which dates us back really to like March 13th. It was a scheduled staff day, but it was also a day where we were told that we should start thinking about some emergency planning as we weren't sure what was going to be happening with the state of our building and the state of our children. So we had a department meeting. We have 13 teachers in our department, and Jenny and I service UPK through 2. And we really wanted to think about what was most important for this time and for our students. There were a lot of unknowns at the time, but we knew that one thing we could do was to use music making as a way to bring joy to families. We knew that there were going to be some tough situations ahead, and we thought perhaps this was a way to help give an outlet to families and to students to feel that joyfulness that may be missing and there. So Jenny, if you want to take over there, other things that we were focusing on for our virtual content.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure that we had a balance. At the very beginning, we had a balance between rhythm, tonal, and we also had a movement activity within there. And we, sorry, this is my cat going after the tree right now. Typical, right? So we ended up narrowing that down to rhythm and tonal each week, and that serviced kindergarten through second grade. So we kept that a little broad there, and we still followed as much as we could along with our LSA sequences. We would add in some rhythm activities or some rhythm, you know, obviously some rhythm and tonal patterns within those activities.
And we try to work smarter, not harder, by making one video for our UPK through second grade students and trying to implement lots of different elements that they might have been working on in the skill sequence at the time. And if you have a chance to see any of our videos, you might, as a music learning theorist, might be able to pick out those pieces of what was going on there. So we really felt it was important to keep ourselves in the video so that the kids had a real connection and they had that some sort of normalcy of a familiar face and a person they could see at the time. So that was one of our other priorities there. As far as the technology we used to create our videos, we used our good old iPhones. And you see the little arrow there down to the living room, not my living room, but Jenny and I were laughing that it looks a lot similar because there's a window and then a big couch. It was important to have good lighting. So if you're making videos, just a quick tip that you want to be facing a window, or anytime you can be in natural light, you have the best picture for your videos there. So once we made our videos,
I actually set myself up that way today to give a great example.
I have a little, I have windows on all sides today. But. So we took our videos and then we edited them in either iMovie or Adobe Premiere. And Adobe Premiere actually is showing that it's a little bit more easier to use, more user-friendly than iMovie. And if we have a chance, we'll show you a snippet of one of the movies we used to, one of the videos we used Adobe in there. And after we took our videos, Jenny, we posted them.
Yes, we posted them on 3 different platforms, really. Our school uses Schoology, at least for last year, to reach out to students, which is set up, if you haven't used it before, it kind of looks like Facebook. So the entire function of it is a Facebook platform. We also then decided to create a YouTube channel so that it could be accessed, especially our UPK students do not have that access to Schoology, nor would they have the skill set to really function, nor would their parents feel comfortable, I think, on that. So we reached out to YouTube and Facebook to post both so that we could really reach as many kids as possible.
Mm-hmm. And we really wanted to, we felt comfortable enough that we could share our material so that if there were schools that didn't have a music educator that could push out materials, that it was available to other schools. And there were some like regular classroom teachers that reached out and said, you know, we're not able to get music to our kids. I've been sharing these with my classes. Thank you so much. So that was a bit of a little extra joy there. We also did try using Flipgrid for an activity. We collaborated with our art department. Our K2 kiddos made birds, either using origami folding, sketching, or photography. And so then we did the song Little Bird in 1 week. And then the next week they had a chance to make their own Little Bird song with their artwork on a Flipgrid, and then all their kids could see it. So yeah, it was really neat to see that work.
Can I just add one thing in there, which I can't remember if that's forward in here too. We did seek the okay from any of the composers for our music, and we also were diving hard into some traditional tunes.
Yes, yeah, copyright. We wanted to be really respectful of that. Thanks, Jenny, for adding
People were
that.
fantastic.
Yes, and something else we did to collaborate, our grade levels did Google Slides for a week long, and a way for us to try and get the kids to engage more in our special areas, which we were finding low engagement most of the time during the closure. And we were trying to be realistic about that. But we started adding in special area slides. We made a Monday through Friday schedule, and Tuesday just happened to be our music day. So you'll see one of the slides would be our special day, and it leads the kids to go to the Schoology page to find the content. So we thought it was a really cool thing because our grade level teachers were kind of like finding out what the kids were doing in music. And they're like, oh, like, what is this tonal pattern and all resting tone and all that stuff. So it was really cool, and vice versa. You know, we were able to find out a little bit too what was going on. I'm not able to move my slide over. There we are. Fast. There it is. Okay. So as far as engagement goes, Jenny, you want to tell us about what we did in our videos? Pretty fun.
So at the very beginning, we obviously used a bunch of props from home. We would encourage students to create some instruments at home. I used like a toilet paper roll and a towel roll to make boom whackers. We did a lot of that sort of creativity there. In the very beginning, you're going to see us together there. We did start out with a few together, which were, again, movement, tonal, rhythm. We did one for each. Sorry, I'm just laughing at some of these. So the big shebang, really, we used also the acapella app. If any of you have ever used that one, we were able to interact that way too before we jumped on board with this Adobe super fancy. We got very fancy. Yeah, toward the end. The pirate.
Yeah. We felt play was really, really important. As you know, play is crucial for development in children. And it's, of course, with music development, it really helps kids buy in and want to participate. So we tried to be as playful as possible in our videos and creative with that. So it encouraged other kids to be creative. And we always tried to give our videos a way to give the invitation to respond. Hey, tell us about what you did for movement this week, or take a video of you singing this song. And we did get some videos back. So we always tried to make it interactive if we could, you know, with respecting people's privacy and understanding kids might not have space to move, or they might not have materials to do these things with. So.
Side note, if you use Schoology, Kim figured out, it's great. If you create within an assignment, you would create an assignment within there, and then the kids actually can easily respond back, which is a helpful little tidbit.
All right. This is, I don't know if you guys have seen Jen Bailey's skill tracker, but this is how we kind of track what we do K-1-2. And I put this slide in thinking about this coming year as we are moving through a hybrid model and some virtual learning, how we're going to start using this to pare down what material we feel like really needs to be covered. So I just left that slide up before a talking point later on in our breakout rooms if we wanted to. Let's see, wanted to give you just a closer look. Oh, let's see, there it is. Of our pirate adventure. This is our virtual attempt at partial synthesis. And if you are new to MLT, this is where we're kind of comparing two tonalities or two meters, which are unlabeled, to try and audiate what meter or tonality we are audiating in. So Jenny and I created some fun pirate things to go, and we were separate, but we tried to make the video together. So we would record portions of the video and then send it to each other, and then we'd use our headphones to listen to the video and give responses and edit from there. So Jenny, I don't know if you want to say anything else about that.
I will say I added in I'm sorry, my husband's lawn mowing. I don't know if you can hear. Is that really loud right now?
No, it's fine.
Okay, I'm just gonna shout. So I paired
really
up. Sorry, I paired up a Bose speaker as well in the background for that. It definitely took many takes, but on the level of play, I would definitely say we went above and beyond with this whole play idea and the idea that we can obviously make mistakes within the video too. So that made it a little easier to do. It was definitely a brain challenge though.
So here's a little bit of that. Let's see.
We can't hear the sound.
Yeah.
What's that?
I don't think the sound is transmitting through.
Oh.
But
probably because I have my headphones in?
maybe you could share that in your breakout room a little bit more. I mean, just from the visuals, I mean, you set up your whole living room.
Oh, there it is.
Is that working now?
Yes.
You must be able to audiate duple-meter. Now, we've been working on this class, you know. Do-day, duple-meter. And do-daddy, triple-meter. Yes. However, I'm going to make you work for it in your audiator. You must be able to determine the meter without the symbols. I can do that. All right, let's get to it. The first.
Kim, can we end it there for a little bit?
You got it.
I love that so much. Do you have any final, just quick words before we move on? I know you are both a wealth of information on this, and I'm really excited for your folks to chat a little bit more, but last statements?
So as our reflections here and trying to move on with what we're going to have this school year, it's that mindset of trying to remain positive and thinking, there's lots of things we don't get to do, but there are lots of things we do get to do, like keep making music with kids in any way possible. So just trying to shift that mindset if we can. Jenny, I'll give you a second.
Sorry, my husband's right over there with the lawnmower. Apologize. Yes, I would also say, as much as you get to collaborate, that's also another, we get to actually do this with other people. I do feel lucky that Kim and I have each other, but also reaching out to this group in general, I think is a great collaboration as well.
Yeah, thank you. Excited to break out with the group.
Well, thank you so much to Kim and Jenny for sharing. Yay, virtual applause. It's not quite the same, but we make do, right? It's something we get to do. I love that. So if you're just joining us now, thank you so much for making time. Again, you are at the New York GIML online chapter share. And up next, we have our older elementary music, 3 through 6, I believe, with our wonderful past president, Lynn Grossman. And just a quick note, if you're just joining us, make sure your name matches your registration so that we can put you in the breakout rooms and save questions, unless it would pertain to the whole group, for the breakout sessions at approximately 7:20. Let's see if we stay on track. But Lynn, take it away.
Thanks, Lindsay. Hi, everyone. My name is Lynn Grossman, and I'm just going to share my screen with you folks here so you can see what I'm talking about. As Kim did, can you just give me a quick thumbs up if you can see that? Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So as Lindsay said, I'm going to be discussing the upper elementary portion of today's chapter share. And just a little bit of information about me so you can know about my context is that I teach at the Allendale Columbia School, which is in Rochester, New York. It is a private school that serves kids now 18 months through 12th grade, and I work with the kids nursery through 5th grade. And as you'll see in some of my examples, we use project-based learning in our elementary grades. And really that's just a way to get kids to engage with inquiry processes and have student-centered learning. But for me, I'm expected to make connections to the projects that kids are doing in their classrooms. So if you see some of my examples and you're wondering, why is she teaching about whale songs? It's because we were doing an oceanography unit. Also, we use Seesaw as our online learning platform, and for folks who are not aware of that, it's a way for students to share photos, videos, audio of their learning for their teacher and their families, and also a way for me to create activities to share with those kids. As our wonderful presenters for early elementary shared, I was busy making YouTube videos and posting activities online in a similar way. So I'm not going to talk more about that, but just sort of get into some of the big goals for me in online instruction. So as we transitioned to distance learning, I was really wondering, how am I going to help my students develop their audiation, develop a vocabulary of musical patterns to become more independent musicians. And 3 things really stuck out to me during the online teaching, but you know, they're things I hope to carry into this coming fall, regardless of whether we're in person or online. Right now we're scheduled to be in person, and hopefully we can continue as such. The first is designing for student choice, and I'll talk a little bit about how I included that in my instruction. As we talked before about the skill learning sequence that's specific to music learning theory concepts, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And a big part of my instruction that I value is creativity, improvisation. I'm always trying to prioritize that. I know it's part of the skill learning sequence, but I wanted to speak about it specifically. So let's start with designing for student choice. So when I'm talking about student choice, what I mean is having kids choose between repertoire, how they're going to respond, and how they're going to perform. As teachers who want to differentiate for our students, I feel like this is always good practice. But as we went to online learning, I feel like I had never been challenged so much to differentiate and provide choice to my students. I thought it was a good challenge for me. And as a result, I was really surprised by some of the learning and skills that my students demonstrated because things were so open-ended for them. So when I talk about choosing repertoire, in some listening and responding activities, I might provide kids with 1 or 2 choices for repertoire, or maybe I'd provide them with a playlist or a website that had a huge list of songs that they could interact with. When I talk about how they could respond, through Seesaw, our learning platform, kids could either create a written response via typing, they could take an audio recording of themselves demonstrating their skills, or they could create a video demonstrating their skills as well. And when I talk about how to perform, students obviously using those tools could sing or use any instruments, you know, traditional or self-made that they had at home. All students in grades 3, 4, and 5 went home with recorders, which was its own unique challenge. I got 90% of them back, which I feel like is a personal achievement. But you know, that wasn't the instrument of choice for all kids. So I also provided a lot of digital resources, websites. Some of you might be familiar with some of them that I'm going to share. So let's get into it. This is just an example of an activity I provided for my 5th graders. Again, they were doing an oceanography unit. You're welcome to read this particular activity more after the presentation today. This will be shared with you. But just a quick aside, kids got to pick between 2 different pieces of music, and then they responded about the musical elements like tonality, meter, timbre, but they also did the social emotional learning component with perceived emotions and how they were feeling while they were listening. So again, kids got to pick that repertoire. Another example is with a world music project. Certain kids were doing immigration as a study of inquiry. Kids got to pick from a list of different countries with different songs. It was a resource from the BBC. They got to listen to the music and respond about musical elements, and again, back to the social emotional learning. But in this project, kids also got to perform with the music. So the second part of the project was that they had to take a video or audio recording of themselves, like drumming along with macro beats and micro beats, or if they found something where they could identify the bass line, maybe singing along with it or singing the melody. One student actually created a folk dance for her and her sister to perform together, and they shared a video of that through our online learning platform. So that was a little bit about choosing repertoire and choosing how to respond. Choosing how to perform, I gave students an activity where I simply asked them to perform the bass line of this pirate song. Perhaps Kim and Jenny, you might have taught A Pirate's Life for Me. It's a simple tonic and dominant song. We've been spending a lot of time in our class learning ukuleles. Of course, these kids don't have ukuleles at home. So when I asked them to perform the bass line, they could, of course, sing it. They could play it on their recorder. I found a tool called Uke Buddy, which showed the chords, and they could literally like click the chords and play along. Some kids also use Chrome Music Lab. There's different tools there that they could use. If you go back to this slide later and you click here, there's actually a child notated in Chrome Music Lab the melody and the bass line together, which was nuts. So giving those kids the tools to perform with digital, or I'm going to put like air quotes, like real or traditional instruments, or with their voice was motivating for this particular age group, because so much of our curriculum centered around instrumental connections. I'm just going to talk briefly about skill learning sequence and creativity improvisation. So as Jenny and Kim spoke about, pattern instruction is a big component of my teaching. As I was asking kids to complete these activities, I wanted to know how kids could demonstrate their understanding. And so bridging to some examples of inference learning was important for me and my students. For instance, listen to this new song, and in your response, I want you to chant macro beats and micro beats, and I want you to label tonality and meter. That was one example of an activity. Another, and again, you can check this out later, is I recorded tonal patterns, familiar tonal patterns in major tonality, tonic, dominant, and subdominant functions. When the kids pushed play, they heard them in a specific order, and using their pen tool, they had to draw a path showing what came first, what came second, what came third. And that was really interesting and easy to assess, because I could literally just take a look at their assignment and see if the shape matched. Finally, I'm going to close with an example of creativity and improvisation. I know we're running out of time, so I'm breezing through it. Oh, I do time? Thanks, Lindsay. Okay. Kind of watching the clock. I was really bummed when we went to online teaching and learning, because my 3rd graders, they're new to recorders, and we've been doing a big push with improvisation. And for anyone who's familiar with Chris Azera's developing musicianship through improvisation, we're really working steadily on skills 1 through 7. And so I have an example of a kid performing that, but Lindsay says I had 2 minutes, so I'll touch on the other ones. Thanks, Lindsay. So getting kids to perform bass lines, but also improvise maybe inner voice harmonies with rhythms, or melodic or tonal patterns, rhythm patterns with the repertoire. That was one thing that we tried. I was initially thinking we're not going to try that because I thought kids required me as a musical model to guide and lead them. And it wasn't until a kid responded in an activity with his own improvisation, unprompted by me, that made me think I need to be asking more of my students and give them meaningful challenges to improvise while they're at home. It really showed me their independence. Other examples in this PowerPoint will include a Rap Your Name project. There's a link there if you want to use this project. It's really structured, having kids design lyrics and then a backing drum track using Groove Pizza. And in going along with what Kim and Jenny were saying, I had some kids use created instruments, self-created instruments. I had them do some ostinatos. So close with this kid doing a little improvisation. He is a child who usually never shares anything in class. He is like the shyest kid. He also has really high tonal aptitude, which totally surprised me when I found that out. And this was the first time I really truly heard him take a risk, and I'm so glad that I did. Here you go. He does basically the same thing, so I'll stop it there. But I was really heartened to receive that video demonstrating his skill, his audiation, and his musicianship. So just to close, 3 things that I hope to bring into my teaching are student choice, designing for that and giving kids those opportunities to make those choices, incorporating the skill learning sequence as much as possible, and especially giving kids opportunities to create and improvise. That's all I got.
Wow, thank you, Lynn.
Thanks.
And I love that example of the student. It just shows, like, I think so many of us are used to preparing for performances and it has to be like the perfect, absolute response. But I just love you're giving students the ability to participate in so many ways and, like you said, take risks. It's very inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, up next we have our lovely presenter for chorus, and after that is band. Then if you're just joining us, we'll be going into breakout rooms at about 7:20, and that's where we're going to get really into your specific questions, chatting. It'll be a very casual space to brainstorm any new ideas or ask questions of our presenters. But without further ado, we have Christian Bigliani. Is that how we say your last name? I should have asked before I presented. That was bad on my part. But we have Christian here to talk about chorus. Take it away.
Hi there, everybody. My name's Christian. We have some feedback here because Lynn Grossman and I are actually sharing a table right now. Hi again. So sorry about that feedback. I did not put together a presentation, but I'm more than happy to put some of these thoughts into writing, into some type of handout afterwards, if you would like. Just to give you a little bit of information about myself. I did not actually teach during this quarantine because I'm currently a PhD student at the Eastman School of Music. However, before coming back into academia, I was teaching middle school choir and middle school general music. I was teaching a ukulele class. And then before then, I was also teaching high school choir and musical theater. And so I've been teaching in and out throughout. So I just wanted to throw that out there because what I'm about to talk about is going to be a mixture of kind of some instincts or kind of things like, I feel like I would do this if I were still teaching, or I would want to do this, or I feel like maybe this is missing. But I also, since I miss my old school district so much, and I've only been gone for a year, I still kept in touch with a lot of my colleagues, and I was actually teaching down in Atlanta, Georgia. And they are already back to school. And so while I was visiting down in Georgia with a mask because it's crazy down there, there was a lot of conversations that I got to engage with my former colleagues about how they're planning for things, about how they're managing certain requirements, and how their schools are kind of managing what they're able and not able to do. And so what I'm about to share is going to be a little bit of of what I also discussed with them, because we got into some interesting conversations, especially going back to the beginning of, well, what is music literacy? What are we teaching? And another one of my colleagues said, well, we're still teaching music and we're not really teaching anything different. It's just how we're presenting the information. So I want to start with kind of giving a shout out to our elementary general music colleagues, because just because we can't teach an ensemble course the same way does not mean that our content necessarily changes. General music requires creativity to present material in a variety of contexts, especially if you want to repeat a skill or you want to make sure that students are repeating or maybe engaging with the material in a creative, different way, although it might be still the same deep down. So that variety or that creativity could be challenging for those of us who teach ensembles, because a lot of the time we're taught to come in, to warm up, to work on the repertoire, even work on sight reading, and then just kind of have those moments to either put things away, put instruments away, and then kind of be off on your merry way. And so in Georgia at least, they are allowed to sing as long as they are spaced 6 feet apart. And masks are not necessarily required. And so that's, I know, and so that also put a damper, well, because there are also a lot of my colleagues in Georgia are expecting to essentially they're starting in person, but essentially making the jump back into virtual. So a lot of their materials were, how can we double dip to not only create materials that are for in-person learning, but also that we can adapt for virtual. So one of the first things that I suggested we talked about was to reach out to your students and ask about how their virtual experience was in the spring, because a lot of the times we might assume something about the experience based off of how we felt about it, because a lot of us were just thrown into it, you know. And having been a student throughout this quarantine, I know my motivation just went down. And so I can imagine, you know, students will also kind of vary with regards to their motivation. So reaching out and having a conversation with them at the very beginning, and also offering that transparency of what worked, what didn't work, let's come in together and create something that works for you, so that way we can move forward in a meaningful way. However, that being said, be prepared to get answers that you're not expecting, or answers that might further challenge how you're going to move forward with your class. The simple task of checking in with students can help provide experiences that will help retain them the following year, or even increase your enrollment as well. So the areas that I kind of want to touch upon are classroom management and engagement, building audiation skills, a possible replacement for concerts, and collaboration with students and also colleagues. So with regards to classroom management and engagement, I wanted to emphasize that idea of choice, but also self-actualization, because as soon as you start to move into ensembles, you want to build independence with students. And so you also want to make sure that they are progressing and are able to be independent. And so some colleagues decided that they were going to take the emphasis on solo singing. If we can't sing as an ensemble, we are going to work on your instrument by yourself. And so things to keep in mind with that is to use words that encourage body mapping with students, because since you can't be there to visually correct students, you can provide terminology that helps kind of correct posture, or helps build body awareness for students to be able to self-correct. But if you're also using if you're emphasizing solo singing, it is also very possible to use short tunes. I personally was also a fan of Chris Azera's developing musicianship through improvisation, because you're given folk tunes that are, for the most part, familiar with some students, maybe the older students, maybe the younger students, depending on their elementary background. But you're also giving like a guidance or a sequence of different skills in order to help learn to improvise, or to be able to listen to music in such a way to break it down. And I particularly use that model to help with a project that I did with my 7th and 8th graders one year, where we did a pop song project, which was inspired by Jimmy Fallon. And so they needed to be able to piece out the melody and piece out the bass line of their song in order to be able to then orchestrate it with these classroom instruments. And so if you're emphasizing the solo singing aspect of instruction, that can maybe be using repertoire from developing musicianship through improvisation, and then guiding students through these skills, or even learning repertoire for choir. And so then if they're by themselves, one tool that I particularly found very intriguing with regards to making practice tracks, which is kind of taboo for some teachers, because some teachers view that as just teaching imitation, or just kind of listening and then just kind of regurgitating. But I found that with Soundtrap, you can, since it's online and it's cloud-based, you're able to have all of the parts on there, and you can have students record their part with the accompaniment, or have them sing with other parts, or maybe even learn the alto part if you're the soprano, and being able to kind of pick and choose. You can mute as you go, and you can even record your part in addition to see how it all sounds together. And so that's something that can also be purposeful with how they are able to choose what they sing with, who they sing with. And so you're able to create those practice tracks with the repertoire you're rehearsing. Or if you're not rehearsing repertoire per se, maybe you can do short sections of the repertoire you would be doing, even if it's not for a concert. The acapella app, has been also previously mentioned, is also really great, because if they're engaging in this way with Soundtrap, another medium to be able to engage with these different parts for choral people is the acapella app. Granted, in my district, you're not able to say you have to get the acapella app, but you can say, I really love this app, and this is a really great thing that I did. Look at this really cool video. Don't I sound awkward? Don't you want to sound awkward with me? And then another thing that was also, especially if you're in a pinch with regards to extra activities, is a choice board. Another colleague of mine, she created a choice board that had things along the lines of, let me see if I can find, teach someone solfege with hand signs, or create a choir meme, create a TikTok dance to a choir song or a warm-up. Find a song on J.W. Pepper that your choir should sing next year. And so this is also encouraging students to kind of go out a little bit further and maybe engage with the material in a different way that you may or may not have noticed before. Moving on to building ideation, with ensembles, I like to proceed with ideation in a way that empowers students with understanding. So at the beginning of the school year, a colleague of mine mentioned that one of her activities was going to be learning how to sing happy birthday, but with sign language. So if they can't sing all together, they're ideating happy birthday, because she'll be playing the accompaniment, but they're going to be signing it. And so then that made me think, well, what other things can they potentially sign? Or what other work can you do with solfege and hand signs and humming? The emphasis on learning melody and bassline can also be expanded upon. And using Flipgrid for students to respond, or creating videos on YouTube in order to create those type of echo me type of interactions. Replacement for concerts. Doing an informants, as most of us may have done in the past, is a really great day to kind of document a day in the life of chorus. And not only is this a great tool to show your parents what they're doing, especially since what the heck are they doing in chorus right now if they're able to sing or not. So you can share it with students, you can share it with family members, but you can also share it with your school in order to quote unquote validate what you're doing, because a lot of reactions that sometimes academic teachers do to you is, what are you doing if you can't sing? But it can also be used as a tool for recruitment in future interactions. But the informants can also be just a live stream. It can be just a recording of the class. But if you have, I also would have students, give students opportunities to perform solo if they would like. So there would be maybe like a small audition process. But if you have students record themselves, a way that I found really organizes that is if they upload their videos through a Google form, because then the Google form will give you the link, but also like alphabetize, and it puts it in all in one document. So you're not flipping through Flipgrid or sifting through your email, because sometimes receiving recordings through email is just a headache, especially with all of the other emails that we receive. And then lastly, the idea of collaboration. It's been tossed around the idea of having socially distanced centers, where you maybe have a listening center or a composition center. I would have students, because starting in middle school, you could audition for Allstate in Georgia. And so there was very strict parameters placed on the sight reading requirements that the students would sight read in their audition. And so I would take those parameters and kind of turn that into let's come up with our own sight reading examples and compose them for me. And then we would play the game afterwards. Who do you think composed this one? Or if there was something that was a little clunky about it, then we would have a conversation about what would make it easier to sing, or what would make it harder to sing, even for that matter. And then the idea of perhaps collaborating with other choral directors or even music teachers in your county or district to be able to create just a bank of videos of warm-ups, or maybe even other types of concepts, or maybe even like little interviews or whatnot. So the idea of collaboration cannot just necessarily happen with students, it can also happen with you and other teachers. So you're creating a bank of material to be able to present to students, especially if you're teaching choir. Sometimes it's helpful to have a male model something or a female model something. So that way you have a variety of different things. And so that is it. I think I went over time, but once again, I can write this all down if anybody wants a handout of everything. But yeah, empower students through understanding.
I love it. Thank you, Christian. I'm excited because I feel like a lot of what you mentioned, I teach elementary chorus. I think we could do a lot of those ideas as well.
Lindsay, we can't hear you.
How about now?
Just kidding. That was just me because I forgot we're in the same location. Oh, geez. I really stepped on that one.
Oh, technology. Well, my square is yellow, so I'm going to trust the Zoom gods that everything's okay now. All right, so thank you, Christian. Yay! I'm very inspired for chorus of all of your ideas, and I can't wait to chat with you more in our breakout session. And last but not least is Greg Clark. Greg, we're going to give you the full 10 minutes just to be fair. And then everyone, we already have our breakout room set up. So we'll get that going right after Greg, and it'll go until about 7:55, just so we can come back and center ourselves. But I encourage everyone in the breakout rooms to get each other's contact information if you want to collaborate or email more about things. I know it's a short time today, and I appreciate everyone taking the time. All right, Greg, last but not least, take it away.
Okay, let's see. I have to figure out which thing I'm going to share first, and it's going to be this. So you're all going to end up with a copy of this. My PowerPoint is kind of reflective of the kind of way that my brain works, which is not the same way that I mean, teaching band, everything is kind of black and white in my brain. And then you'll see later, I do make it colorful for the kids. It really is fun, but this is me. So here goes. For me, it's got to be musicianship first. And that's not going to be a surprise to any of you because this is GIML and this is what we do. And we know how meaningful music can be when it's approached as music and not as something else. So there are a whole lot of other, helpful things that, we'll see pop up in social media groups, and they'll say, look at this project that I did. And you look through it and you're like, well, I don't know how much music was really learned there, but it's cute. And I'm really cautious of things like that because I know, number two here, how much the time that kids spend on band is going to be valued because it's not a lot. All of us, I'm sure, at one point or another, were approached by an administrator to adjust in one way or another how much time we're requiring of kids and how much we're asking of them, and it's hard. And especially for us, where individual practice for about an hour a week is what we ask in our district for elementary students. I teach 4th and 5th grade, I should add. And it's difficult. And actually, I'll jump ahead. When Kim and Jenny were doing theirs, and you're looking at their beautiful video, and they're talking about how much light helps, they are so right. And I'm thinking about all the videos that I shot in my dark garage this spring, because I've got a 2- and 4-year-old little girl who are all over the house. So it's like there's only one quiet place, and it's my dark, nasty garage. And so that's what it is. And it's kind of like, if I can't empathize with my students who struggle to find the time and the space to get all these things done, what are we doing here? So the last thing I have here, I have number 3, differentiation. Many people have talked about. We can actually give kids things that are catered specifically to them. And if we do it ahead of time, we organize, which is the next slide, I think, then it's not that hard. Trying to diversify your offerings retroactively is hard. But if you have a plan, it can be done. And the last thing there, I have limits on the diversity of work. When you ask kids to make extra clicks and go through all these extra platforms, there might be really great content, but you're going to lose a percentage of kids for every click. So you have to do whatever you're going to do and do it in a way that is easy to get to. Oh yeah, so we have Google Classroom, many of you do. It's helpful because it's consistent. It's where the regular homeroom is, it's where their art classes and their phys ed and all of that. So I use that as well, even though there are parts of it that I don't love. That's a compromise that we make. I use YouTube a lot. And you'll see a few links to my YouTube channel later. The reason I love YouTube is it's really easy to get in every device. So if the kid has any kind of tablet or whatever they use at home, everybody can get YouTube. And I also, when I publish my videos, if you haven't done YouTube in a while, now when you upload a video and you say it's for kids, that changes all the rules about how the video is administered. So I do that every time. I also don't do ads, and I don't want it to connect to other videos. So by doing it for YouTube Kids, that means that if they have the YouTube Kids app specifically, they can get my videos, which they should, because my students are between 9 and 11 years old.
Greg, I hate to interrupt a little bit. I see, I'm not sure if you're referring to your slides. I see your title one in like before present mode, but just so you know.
Okay, well, let me fix it. Let's see how to do it. Oh no, well actually maybe I'll just do it here. And does this work better? Great, thank you for telling me. So YouTube, and then I write huge emails to the parents like once a month, and I try to only deliver pertinent information. They're getting this onslaught of communication right now, especially with students like ours, many are at the elementary level. It's just so much for them, especially the ones who have multiple children and they're working their own jobs, and it's hard. So we have to be considerate of that, and the best way to keep them in the loop, this is asynchronous delivery. Writing an email that they can refer back to, and I love asynchronous delivery. If you have a curriculum, you really got to use it. We have a published curriculum that like goes to our board every 3 years, and we edit it, and we edited it this summer. I copied it down and reorganized my entire plan. And there's a link to it here, and I'm pretty proud of it. It splits the year up into modules. It gives kind of a few different pathways for learning, and it reminds me of that chart that I just saw a few minutes ago that had the red and green and yellow squares, like who's where and when are we there. So if you have a plan, it's possible. You can see here, it's helpful for me to have chunks like modules. This is right here in the middle of the screen because of our 6 and 12-day cycles. We recently learned this week that we're going to have a 12-day cycle where 2 different cohorts are on their own 6-day cycles, which is chaos for someone like me who travels between 3 elementary schools and spends 2 days out of each 6 at each building. That's a zoo for me, and it's a zoo for the children, and it's not easy. So again, the more I can put it on paper and have it, set my expectation, the more I can deliver online, and the more I can keep up with the kids and say, here's where we want to be. And maybe we're not quite to this spot yet, but we're close. Or maybe we can pass this one off and move on to the next thing. At the bottom, you have a little bit of my band teacher snark. I apologize for that, but flexibility is good until flexibility is an administrator's idea and not yours. So that's where I always try to, again, the clearer my organization is, the less someone's going to have to come and say, well, we don't really know what you're doing. If you're, I'm going to move past that and keep things positive. So here are the actual activities that I do. The big 4 bullet points. I have asynchronous learning sequence activities. You guys know all about that, but I do a ton of videos, and there's a link to my channel under the next bullet. We all know that recorded music doesn't quite do the job that in-person instruction does, especially for actual teaching of musicianship. But it's helpful, and I have proof. And it's my 4-year-old daughter who I've been indoctrinating this entire time. Every time we're in the car, I would say, well, not every time, but a lot of the time, the play-along CD from Jump Right In is in my car. And so there will be times where we're like brushing your teeth or something, and I'll go, do, mi, do, and she'll go, 1, 2, 1, and she knows all of the patterns, and she's 4, and her pitch is getting better, and it's like, holy cow, kid. But it works. Asynchronous, it's not ideal, it's not face-to-face, you miss so much of that, but progress is progress. My second bullet point, audiation songs. I teach the kids pretty much with rote song procedure, the way that you teach the kids the song. And at the very end, there's one really great resource for extra songs for instrumental that I was really proud that I found, but I'll share that when we get there. I do composition activities, and there's a link here to Kathy Liberoti's examples. I got those from the NY-GIML website, and I also got them from her when I went to her NYSSBA conference session like 4 years ago, and it's really terrific. Hers, I think, was written for a recorder project, so I've adapted them to all the band instruments so that the horns are writing in F and the clarinets are writing in C and all that. For every one of those, I make a video so that no kid gets lost. No kid has an excuse to say, I don't get it, I don't know how. Here's me walking you through every step of the way. Resource sharing, just in the Google Classroom, I drop cool recordings and videos and YouTube stuff. because there are some kids who that's the only way you're going to get them to, you know, perk up. And for other kids, it's just cool to see. I'm going to keep moving. This is a lot of information about my composition activities. I'm going to pass on that, and maybe we'll talk about it in the instrumental breakout. But here are some examples of what they look like. They're 2 lines long. And you can see my saxophone player on the left, he really did a terrific job. And he even got his stems right, which is, it blows my mind because I'm not sure we ever talked about it. And on the right, you can see another, these are both pretty strong students. But on the right is someone else, and she chose her own chords for that activity. So with each one, I try to get a little bit more developed, although we always do spiral back and remember what we've done before, because you don't really outgrow music because it was easy. I do this really cool engagement strategy thing. This is an extrinsic motivator. I love it for so many reasons. I just started doing it this year. I take a picture of all the kids. I get their picture up on the wall, and they earn badges, like on PlayStation, for doing different stuff. And there's all kinds of different stuff. And I have 2 links here to explain how it works specifically. But here's where I get colorful. There it is. So in my classroom, and I'm going to have to do this digitally this year because I have a hunch I won't be in my classroom the whole year. I had, you can see this picture over here on the right. I had all of the kids up on the wall. And you can start to see all these different colored stickers sneaking in, and they all have different meaning. And this was very early in the process. Later on, I had all of the meanings of the stickers posted here. You can see, like, this is my high achieving flute group who's already got all the colors. Surprise, surprise, everybody. And this girl specifically, she has these 3 because she played, the green stickers were major scales, the yellow stickers were audiated songs, and the red stickers that surrounded them were those same songs played in a new key. So she probably played, you know, Hot Cross Buns in B flat, and then she played Hot Cross Buns and got the red one. And there would be a little circle of red stickers surrounding the yellow ones. And by the time we went home from school, oh, there's the explanation right there. These kids' faces were really filling up with all the things they'd accomplished. And they'd walk by and they'd say, oh yeah, I got this one. You know, this kid passed off on every single song for his February concert, and he got this big shiny golden sticker. And that was a big deal in school when those started to show up. Stickers work. If you're a high school teacher, stickers might work. This is the kind of program that I usually put together. This was that February concert. You can see we have all the classic audiation songs up here that I have played by small groups, and we determine those just during their lessons to figure out what they could play well. And then they would practice that specific song above all the others for a little while. And after 6 months of instruction, or so, less, 5 months of instruction, this is about where we were. So, you know, each group would get their own featured song, and that would be their special moment. And then we'd play a bunch of these unison tunes out of Essential Elements, and then we would move on and do something all together as a group. And this is my resource page that I was talking about before. I'll go through these pretty quickly. When you all get this, hopefully you can make use of it. The top one is the goals that I assign to kids each week. Usually I print it out and write in pencil what they're going to do, but you'll see how that works. It's just another way to stay organized. My school YouTube channel, which I've already talked about, my plans for March, which are somewhat elaborate, and it includes a lot of this information. This 5-minute warm-up sheet is pretty cool. I made that so the kids would have something simple to practice. And let me open Zoom. Oh, where did Zoom go? Oh, well, you have a link to it, but there's a QR code on top that links to the videos. So if a kid has that and they open up their phone, all they have to do is open the camera, and suddenly they have a link to me showing them how to play that page. I teach young kids, they need the guidance. I don't feel bad about it. Last thing is what I was mentioning before, this Otero thesis. Erica Otero wrote a beginning horn method based on MLT, and it's 2 years worth of horn studies. And if you know anything about horn players, you know that the range is very limited at the beginning. So all of the tunes are within like a fifth, and there's dozens of them. Incredible. So it's different tonalities and it's different meters, and it's all in a tiny range. So it's really easy to adapt. If you're someone looking for more audiation songs, that's a terrific resource. That's a lot of information, and I'm glad I got it all through. I hope I wasn't talking too fast. But that's it.
Wow, Greg, this is awesome. I can really see your band teacher organization shine through here. I love this. And for everyone who's wondering, yes, we will share this out after our meeting today. So yay, Greg, silent applause. So now's the time that maybe you were all excited and waiting for. Now's the time to ask all your questions, collaborate with folks. We are about to go out into our breakout sessions. We will come back at 7:55, just for me to plug our future events one last time and thank our presenters again.